stuff because
Yeah.
we can both discuss that, and then in case you have to, if you want to
Oh
talk about the
shit.
other stuff, you can go
Hold
ahead.
on. I started it too soon.
That's all right.
All right. Hey,
Okay.
everybody. I'm going to
Hi,
send
everybody.
out links to everybody as well. I didn't get to do that yet. But hey, everybody, it's Tyler and my good friend Kyle. We are, we wanted to do an impromptu stream. So let's get to it. All right, cool. All right, Kyle. So let's talk Oppenheimer. What are
Yes.
your first reaction thoughts to the cinematic epic that we got?
Well, I'll say this. I had an awful experience last night watching Oppenheimer. It's probably one of the worst movie experiences I've ever had to sit through because
Ooh, I got something
I
to add to that too.
I
Let's
saw
talk.
I basically watched the Barbenheimer double feature. And I went to see Barbie at about 3:10 p.m. and Oppenheimer was going to be at 5 p.m. But with the 20 minutes of trailers, because usually there are 20 minutes of ads and trailers before the movie starts, I was like, well, I believe that I'll have like a couple of minutes in between Barbie and Oppenheimer. Apparently, the Oppenheimer screening had like 10, maybe 15 minutes of ads, trailers. So I missed the first 10 minutes of Oppenheimer going into it. And I was completely lost watching that movie. I came in right when, well, I didn't know it at the time, but it was like the first scene that you really see when Downey as Strauss meets Oppenheimer. And I
Was
was
that the
like,
black and white?
the
That was
black
the
and
black
white
and white. The black and white
sequence
scene.
with Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
And
God, what a
that
good
was like
scene.
when I came into the movie and I was like, wait, what's going on? And knowing Christopher Nolan, I had no idea how many different timelines there were. So there was a point in this film when I'm watching it where I thought that there were like 3 to 4
Oh.
different timelines.
Oh no.
And I got very confused. It was pretty, you know, it was pretty disorienting at first, but then it was until I think really they had the first test of the bomb that I finally was like, okay, now I'm getting into this movie. But I hate Tyler. I hate watching a film without seeing the beginning. That is
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
I'm never doing that again. That was an awful experience, and it really hurt my enjoyment of the film because I literally didn't know what was happening. And then I did end up seeing the beginning again when I went to the next screening just to watch the beginning of the film. And I didn't really miss much. Like, all I missed was him poisoning his teacher with the apple and trying to. And I missed, like, the opening of, like, the hearings and what they were doing there to establish the fission and the fusion, the two ways of depicting the actual timelines and accounts of the events. But man, what missing that beginning, it was a shame. And of course, like,
Shit.
Christopher Nolan is my favorite
Yeah.
director, so to have that experience with a Christopher Nolan movie, that was not. I almost wanted to leave when I saw it. When I was like, oh, I missed the first 10 minutes, but I couldn't because it's a 3-hour film, and the next showtime wasn't until 9 p.m. And I was already there, since like 3 o'clock. So I didn't want to be in that theater for like basically 8 hours. So I decided to watch the rest of it, and I loved it. Like, I think for me, this movie is, it's all the hype, what everyone's saying it is, but it's also a very different Christopher Nolan film because it's not like what we're used to. Because this is the very first Christopher Nolan film um, that he's really ever done as like a historical biopic of one man. And we've seen like history meld its way through his work, whether it's in The Prestige when he depicts Thomas Edison and Nikola Tesla, or we see in Dunkirk an entire account of an actual real life battle. But to actually see just a story of a man that lives a real life was something that we've never seen before. And man, the performances, the sound design, and
Yeah.
I saw this movie in my regular standard Regal theater. Did you see this in 70 millimeter?
Oh, I saw it
Okay.
in 70 millimeter.
Okay. You get it. You get to talk about this now, Tyler. You tell us what it was like to basically go to heaven.
It was fucking amazing. Um, Funny enough, they had issues with my screening at first. The
Oh.
previews were silent. The previews had no audio. I had to literally go up to them and be like, "Hey, listen, like there's no audio with the previews." And then the lights came on in the middle of the screening as well.
Wow.
And they were having issues, and it's like I kind of understand that because they don't run a movie using 70 millimeter. Like literally, they had a digital projector. That was so cool. The 70 millimeter projector is. I want to go back in the back and see it. I wonder if there will be a chance that maybe I can ask, like, hey, can I just take a look at the projector? I would love to see it. But what it is they had a digital projector and the 70 mil. So the digital is like right here, and then the
Okay.
70 millimeters right here. They had them together. So the digital would show the previews, and then they would kick on the IMAX, the 70 millimeter projector when the film was. I guess they synced it up, and it was really. But yeah, there was a issue with the audio at first, so I had to go
Ah.
talk to them. But then, did you see? You weren't there for the preview, so you missed the preview of.
I saw the previews. I saw the previews when I went back to see the opening. So
Okay, so did you see? What did you think of the Exorcist Believer trailer?
I I didn't expect that to be the
No,
real.
I
You know,
didn't either.
when it starts, I was like,
What is this?
I guess this
literally
is a movie that they released a trailer a couple days ago, and I just didn't see like an indie
Yeah.
horror film.
Oh yeah.
But then when I heard the theme, Tyler, I heard the theme, and I was like, it's
Oh.
like, oh boy, this is The Exorcist, and oh man, I am so afraid of this film because like I detest what David Gordon Green did with the Halloween series. The last two films, Halloween
Yeah.
Kills and Halloween Ends,
Yeah,
were
it's kind of
very disappointing
scary.
films.
I have a friend of mine who was DIT on that, and I'm kind of curious to see. I have to talk with him. I'll talk with him at some point very soon, and I'll ask him. He he I haven't heard anything bad that he's had to say about it yet.
The
So
films are beautifully shot by
yeah,
Gordon Green. Like he has a knack for a camera
but
and
he's
everything.
also my friend's a huge horror fan.
Yeah,
Like this is, and that's also why
I'm
too. Like I am. I think a lot of people are going to be very scared about how they're going to do Believer. I
yeah.
do kind of find it interesting. Like it looks like in the trailer, right, that they're the same demon that possess both. I think
Yeah.
that's because remember, like they talk about the heartbeat, like their heartbeats like
Mm.
aligned when they're in the middle. I think it's gonna be very. I'm kind of curious to see how it turns out. I was not expecting that. Like I remember like the posters were released yesterday for
Yeah.
Believer, and I was completely that's the first time I think I've ever been completely taken off guard in a while by a trailer. I was
Well,
like,
for me, it was Barbie. Because if you do, you remember when they released the first trailer for Barbie? You may not have been there, but it was the Avatar: The Way of Water screenings,
"Oh, it was
and
okay."
I didn't like. I saw the opening night screening of Avatar: The Way of Water. We had no idea, they were going to release a Barbie trailer, and it's the 2001: A Space Odyssey beginning filming,
Oh
and
yeah,
that was crazy to me because when they released that trailer, I was like, oh my god. And that was the last time for me. And I love when they do that because
yeah. They
they do
didn't
that
give
actually with
any
Avatar. I
warning.
mean, they do that with these movies because they want people, as an audience. I used to love as a kid, you probably had the same thing where, you go to a theater and you'd see a trailer for a movie that you had no idea was coming out. Now we know all the trailers for all these movies. I can't tell you how tired I am of the Gran Turismo trailers because they play them every time. However, the new one looked a little better than the ones before.
I
But
think it's going to be fun. I like Neil
I
Blomkamp.
think it will be a good movie though, which because I've seen some good reviews. But
Also, I think I just revisited Elysium, and I loved it. Like,
oh
I
yeah,
think
me too.
it's so good.
I like all of Neil Blomkamp's
Yes,
work,
yep.
right? Like I like Chappie. I like, I mean, I love District 9, but it's
Yep.
like I haven't been as deterred from his work like I've seen many others. But Exorcist Believer, I hope it's good. I just hate when I hear it say like they're like we're gonna make a trilogy, and it's like, hold on, let's wait to see how this movie is. And I've seen you do a trilogy before, David Gordon Green, and I wasn't a fan of it. So, and especially with Exorcist being like my favorite horror film of all time, I'm more nervous. So
Apprehensive. Yeah,
yeah,
I get
I
it.
I was watching this trailer though, and I'm like, wow, isn't it crazy we haven't seen a sequel to The Exorcist since like I think it's
80s.
the 80s?
I'll look it up right now. Because, yeah, I think Exorcist 2 was maybe early 8. Let me look. Exorcist. And also,
Well, I
like,
think there's three. I remember
yes,
three
yeah,
Exorcist films.
yeah, there's, let me look. It is, there's going to be a lot. Oh, 73 was Exorcist. So I think Exorcist 2, hold on. 77, A Heretic. So it was and then Exorcist 3 was 1990. So it has been
Oh wow.
33, 40. Has that been no, 30, 30, 33 years. 33 years since that film, which is insane. But then again, they always do like the Exorcist movie kind of deal, the
Yeah, because that,
possession
that
movie.
became almost like a genre in
Yep, it
itself.
did. Yep.
But I don't know. Have you seen the Exorcist TV series with Gina Davis? You
Yeah,
seen it?
it's good.
Oh my god, that was such a good series. And I like that was also one where it was like continuing the story from the first film. And I don't know if you remember this, but like a lot of people when it came out, a lot of people didn't know how connected it was to the first film.
Yeah.
And then when they like the end of that first episode, I remember they reveal that basically Gina Davis was the girl Reagan from the first film.
Yeah. Isn't that
And
cool?
all grown up. And that was like a big twist in that show because I believe that wasn't something I think people knew. At least I didn't know when I watched it.
Yeah. I think
Was
it was like a really good kept secret about the
it
show.
was really really good, and it does make me feel funny because I'm watching. I know that show, and I think they did a great job on that storyline. So I don't know how they're going to do here, but they are bringing back Ellen Burstyn as I think Chris.
I remember hearing about when they were gonna, because there was a thing about it. I worked on They Them, that Blumhouse
Oh
horror
yeah, the
film.
Kevin Bacon one.
Yep, and there was I knew I talked to some of the people, the crew, somebody who was part of the creative team at Blumhouse, and they were antsy to get that done because they needed to film with her because I think she's like in her late 80s, and they wanted to get her stuff done quickly and get that done. And I think that happened. I think that happened in 2022. I think that's when that filmed. I'm excited. As much as it is, I do think what Gordon Green did with the sequels was not the best. Not the best, but again, I think we're all scared for it. But let's pivot back.
I thought he delivered with the first one.
Yes. Oh my God.
Halloween
Yes.
2018. That was really good.
Yep. And then it slid. But let's get back to Oppenheimer.
Yes.
I think the movie is absolutely phenomenal, and it was awesome to see this in 70 millimeter.
Oh,
It was so good, and I think Hoyt, Hoyt today,
Van Hoytema.
Hoyt de Hoytema. He's I love Hoyt's cinematography. I think right now I do have a bias with Greg Fraser's cinematography,
Yeah.
but I really do think Hoyt's work with the black and white, especially on film, and
The
his color,
close-ups.
the close-ups, the color palette, like I really, really, really dug it a lot. I think there's gonna be there's gonna be a battle between Fraser and there's gonna be a battle between Fraser and Hoyt and and good old, I think it's hold on.
Oh, Killers of the Flower Moon, right?
Yep,
Who's
yep.
doing that?
It is. I'm looking it up right now. Give me 1 second. Why am I oh, Rodrigo Prieto.
Mm,
I think I think it's gonna be a big, and I've heard nothing but great things about Killers of the
you know,
Flower
I
Moon.
will say, I remember I told you because when I saw the trailer, I wasn't as big on the trailer as I think a lot of other people were. Oppenheimer has actually made me even more excited for Killers of the Flower Moon because with Oppenheimer, when the first trailers came out, I also wasn't as enthusiastic about it.
Yeah,
And I think for me, it's like these types of movies, like the non-action, comic book, science fiction type films, the trailers don't impact me because you need to see the film in order to really get a sense of, what it's like and what's happening. And I
yep.
think, oh man, like this, the way that
It's riveting,
the
Kyle.
the
It's
riv-
one of the. It's
it's so
so
riveting. And
riveting,
the
and that's a.
narrative, the
Yep,
narrative is so seamlessly intertwined with, the trial,
yep,
and then we get
yep,
to see Oppenheimer's personal life,
yep.
which I was a little bit because I feel like I've been given false information because I remember even you said, oh, Florence Pugh's playing his mistress. I'm like, no, I read that she's playing his like ex fiance, but I don't think
He's
she was his ex fiance. I don't think
no.
he never.
I think it's. I was right. It's a
It
mistress.
was his mistress. I don't know where.
They they were together. They were. I think they were together at one point, and it kind of indicates that. And I do kind of find it interesting that they really talked a little bit about his infidelity. Like it kind of shows that he is a human being with a lot of flaws. And I thought it was I thought that scene of him in the room and she's on top of him, like when they're doing the interview, and Florence is staring at Emily while she while she was on top of him. I'm like, oh my god, like they got that was like a psychological horror kind of thing.
Yeah,
Like that was, and I thought and that was the thing too. There were some people that have talked about she was a throwaway role, but I do think she played a pivotal part in it
yeah.
because he
She was
she
a
was,
communist.
yeah, but and not just that. He always would go back to her when things were not going well between him and
Hmm.
and Emily Blunt. And I thought that was interesting, I and I draw a parallel between what they were, and my favorite movie of all time is The Right Stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I the thing that I find that is the most fascinating about it is it almost reminded me of The Right Stuff. Like it's during the same time period, and it just with the whole, like, I think Oppenheimer wouldn't have been the man that he was without his wife beside him. Like she was flawed, but she was also the tether that he needed to keep himself sane. Because I remember the scene where he finds out that Florence Pugh's character, she commits suicide.
Oh yeah.
and he like this was when they were at Los Alamos, and he goes off, right, and Emily Blunt finds him like he's either drunk or just having like a manic episode of just grief. And I love that moment because she finds out like he's distraught because she died. And it's like I love that part where she grabs him and it's like stop. Like
Yeah.
just stop. Like this woman wasn't like this was your like basically she was like this was your fucking mistress and you are having this kind of reaction to somebody that you were fucking that wasn't me. Like get a grip. Like get a grip on yourself. There's a lot of other people here that rely on you. You need
Yeah.
to what we are
Yeah.
doing. And it's also like and I do like that a lot too because like in the right stuff, the female the wives were just as important to the whole program
Uh-huh.
as they were because they were the ones holding them together when they were about to break, they were the ones
I
that were
never watched
being
that movie. Ah.
dude, you need to cuz here's the thing, I was talking to my mom about that and I'm like, "Listen, there's a lot of parallels that I can draw between, right? For me, they're both 3 hours long. The
Yeah.
right stuff is 3 hours and Oppenheimer's 3 hours. So what I would do and I think I will. Like, I cannot wait for the Steelbook to get announced for Oppenheimer because I'm definitely gonna put it on my list and get it. Um, the way I would do it is I do Oppenheimer first and then the right stuff because basically, like they talk about. So basically, as Oppenheimer goes from right as Hitler invaded Poland, 1939, all the way to 1940, 40, was it 44 when the bomb was dropped?
Maybe.
Or 45? I forget. But there's that time period. And then 2 years later was when Chuck Yeager broke the sound barrier in the beginning of the right stuff. So
Mm.
literally, you could do 1939 to 1962. Like those two films span that whole thing.
Yeah.
And I just love the fact that he did a film that was so good. It's I never thought a movie about the bomb being dropped and not even the bomb being dropped, but being made would be as riveting as it was. And
And also, no, it's not just that, but it's also the trial of
yes,
Oppenheimer because I thought the film would actually focus more on the bomb than it did on the trial because it's really split in half. I would say like it's split in half between
yeah,
the making of the bomb and this trial of whether he can go back on the board and I think work on the um some type of project again.
no, it was the H bomb, it was the hydrogen
Okay.
bomb, and
Yes.
that to me was also so fascinating because what what happened was like Oppenheimer was very much and also like there's some details that I want to talk about that are just so cool that so what had happened was he was very much for disarmament and
Mm.
the he didn't want the proliferation of atomic weapons and hydrogen weapons to be as expansive as it was. So what he was trying to do with Strauss was he wanted to get that policy done, right? He wanted to because he saw the danger that this was posing and that was also why he was so against going for the hydrogen bomb instead of the atomic bomb in it because he actually saw the hydrogen bomb, I think, as a more deadly weapon. And thought the atomic bomb was the way to go.
Ah.
And that was the whole issue around that. Was he's like, listen, this is, and also like he saw just the deadly consequences of both. And Strauss was like, we need to keep building up and building up and building up. And when Oppenheimer really went public with his talks of like, we need to kind of take the reins back a little bit after the atomic bomb and after the war, is like, we need a policy that keeps it from becoming such a, like, this sickness of the atomic
Yeah.
weapons to expand. And I just find that fascinating that, you know, the politicians that gave him and brought him in to do this, they were his ultimate downfall. And I it's so and then but the detail that I really loved, did you hear did you catch the names when Strauss is asking who was against my nomination to the Atomic Commission? And he's like, the senators, and one of the senators was some senator from, I forget what state, but he's like, Robert F. Kennedy was one of the senators
Didn't he
that
say
was a,
John F.
no,
Kennedy?
but that's his real name. Robert is John. So yes, that was John F. Kennedy. I think that's,
Was that what Alden was? Didn't Alden Ehrenreich say that?
huh?
The character that Alden Ehrenreich
Yes,
played.
yes, yes,
The
yes.
one with Downey.
So he said basically John F. Kennedy was one of the holdouts against Oppenheimer or against Strauss because he didn't like that. Remember, who's the who's the guy that played? He was in oh my god, he was in Bohemian Rhapsody.
Rami Malek as
Rami
Dr.
Malek
Hill.
played.
Yeah.
Yep, and that was awesome because he kind of helped derail the whole
Yeah.
nomination of Strauss, because Kennedy said, like, Alden Ulrich's character was like, yeah, he didn't like the way that you had targeted and tried to destroy Oppenheimer with,
Yeah.
because, and also I find that very interesting because it was Kennedy that really tried to start the nuclear arms treaty to stop the proliferation of nuclear
Cuban
weapons
Missile
that
Crisis.
Oppenheimer was trying to do.
Wow.
So he, yeah, which I was like,
That's so fascinating.
yes,
Oh
it
my
was. I
God.
was like, holy shit. I literally was sitting there and I'm like, I literally said out loud, I'm like, holy shit, that's so fascinating that it was John F. Kennedy that derailed his nomination. And I do love Robert Downey's performance in this. Like,
This is honestly, I mean, I mean, his performance as Iron Man is iconic,
yes,
but
yeah,
this is definitely one of his best performances in a long time. Because
dude,
I mean,
so good, so good.
And there are moments where you forget that's Robert Downey.
Yeah,
you're like, wow, this is like, and I have to say, not just Robert Downey, but Robert Downey is one of those actors where what I love about this movie, and I don't think a lot of people are mentioning it, Christopher Nolan is giving like a second chance to a number of actors like Dane DeHaan,
yeah,
Alden Ehrenreich, these great actors that, like, I remember they were really hot, up and coming young actors that everyone was paying attention towards, like they're going places, and then they made these movies like Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Solo, and it just felt like after that we hadn't seen them in these bigger films, and it was so nice to see some of these faces. And yes, you do have a Florence Pugh who right now is really hot and up and coming, but you don't have, like, this movie. I mean, the fact that Cillian Murphy is the main actor, the lead of this film, it's just a perfect example of Christopher Nolan hiring supreme level talent, but not based on, is this person a profitable star? Like, is this a Tom Cruise or a Dwayne Johnson? He's hiring these actors because he knows that these actors
Yep.
are going to give the best performance
Yep.
possible. Like Matthew Modine, Josh Hartnett, oh my god,
Oh,
like
let's
Gary
talk about.
Oldman as
That's who I was
Truman.
about to freaking say. Like, I was like, I saw. No, did you know that Gary Oldman was in the movie? I had
Uh,
no idea.
Kit spoiled this for me the other day.
Really?
she,
Oh, I was so happy. I was
she,
like, oh my
I said,
god.
Kit, stop spoiling this movie. I don't want to know. And she's like, it's in the trailers, Kyle. It's in the trailers.
I didn't
And I'm
see
like,
that in the
no, it's
trailer.
not. Anyway, happy birthday, Kit. It's her birthday today.
Yeah,
But
happy birthday, Kit.
it's
But
so funny to me
yeah.
because, like, that, what I loved about this movie was how many actors, one from Nolan's filmography, would occasionally show up.
Oh,
So,
and
like,
David
David Dalmatian, who
Dalmatian.
I think I
Yes.
forgot he was in this. Matthew Modine.
Let's go. Let's let me go. I'm
Yeah,
going
go
to the
through them.
thing. Dude. Like, I think if anything, I think this film has won the DGA award for ensemble and SAG
Yes,
ensemble
it's
cast. It you can't. All right, so let's go through them all because I
okay.
do think that is just it is. That's why I love this movie so much. It's like, holy shit.
And they're
Like,
all
okay,
given like a role, right? Like they're not. There
yeah,
isn't
they're not
even like I remember
throwaway characters at
Rami Malek.
all.
Rami Malek. I was waiting the
Hell,
whole movie. I was
my
like, wait,
God.
when's he gonna? So far he's had like 2 lines. What's he gonna do? Then he has that great scene at the end. And it's like, yes.
Yes, dude. Let's go through them all.
Okay, go through.
Cillian Murphy, Oppenheimer, Emily Blunt, Kitty, Oppenheimer, Matt Damon. What a role for Matt freaking
So
Damon!
good in this, man. Like,
How was
oh
that?
my
Like the whole.
God.
I love that when they're in the interrogation and that private hearing that they're doing, and he says, I love the part where he's like, I don't doubt that he is a great American and a patriot, and then he's like, I wouldn't have given him clearance under the new McCarthyism
Yeah.
guidelines for anti-communist guidelines, which I thought was so fascinating. And then I love him talking about like they were, when they were in the tent when it's all raining, and at the end where they're all taking bets if they will light the atmosphere on fire.
Yeah.
And Matt Damon asks him, and he asks Killian, so what were the bets about? He's like, well, there was that whole chance that that when we drop this atomic bomb, or when we do this test, that there would be a nuclear reaction, a chain reaction that wouldn't stop, and it would light the atmosphere on fire. And he's like, what's the probability? It's like near zero. And he's like, well, I would like that probability to be zero. And he's like, this is physics. Like, this is science. There's never a probability of exactly zero. And I love that.
There are a number of things. So one with that line, what's really interesting, that is what sparked Nolan's obsession with this movie in this story, because in Tenet, there is a line in that film that Priya tells the protagonist, John David Washington's character, about how Oppenheimer thought for a second, was unsure if he would destroy the world by, setting off that bomb.
I forgot about that.
That line actually caused like Robert Pattinson
to get the book for him,
to hand, Nolan that book. And it's so funny because I rewatched Tenet right before I saw Oppenheimer. And
cool.
You get that feeling. And like, even you mentioned The Right Stuff earlier, and that's one of like Nolan's favorite films. He references, he was inspired by The Right Stuff for Interstellar.
Oh yeah, of course.
And
yes.
and you get to see now, as I say, like this movie in terms of being a biopic is different than we've seen Nolan go for.
Yep.
However, there are a lot of Nolan through lines, you know, throughout this movie. The way they discuss time, the way they discuss these characters, and you mentioned like the whole conversation between Matt Damon and Cillian Murphy. But that same one you were talking about how he said, "Oh, I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't bring him on to this project with these new laws." And then he takes a beat and like thank you, sir. But I would tell you this. And I just love the way he, was so adamant in that scene. And
Like
um
he vouched for him. Like
oh
he's a good American. And I love the fact that they didn't deny that at the end of that. They're like, you are a good citizen, you
yeah,
are a true American, but we cannot give you the clearance that you're asking for. You can't get your security clearance back.
yeah.
And I found that very there was a I think he got the vindication that he needed. It wasn't the full vindication that he was looking for, but it was vindication that he was never an enemy. He was
Yeah.
never an enemy of the people. And again, I think too, right, that there's I love the scenes when they're on horseback, like when it reminds me of the right stuff, dude.
Hmm.
There was a scene when they are on horseback. Here, I'll show it to you. Give me 1 second. Let me pull it up here and I'll show it to you. I'll show it to you on screen
That was a
because I
crazy scene. Every time I saw them on. Okay, listen, Tyler. You haven't seen Barbie yet,
no.
but all I will say is there's a thing about horses in Barbie. That's all I
Okay,
will say. And I couldn't
is it
stop
good?
laughing.
It's
Oh yeah,
good.
Barbie is might be my favorite film of the year right now. Like that movie is so good. It is such a fun time. But there's a joke about horses in that movie, and after seeing like that is the best part about the Barbenheimer double feature, especially seeing Oppenheimer after Barbie, because my God, what a funny joke when you think about um the two movies. But yeah, please, are you seeing Barbie today?
I'll see it over the weekend at some
Okay.
point. But
Oh
here's the
man.
part. Here's what I really love. Right.
Okay.
The okay. So this is oh my god. It's Sam Shepard as Chuck Yeager. Look at look at the jacket, right? Look at the
Mm-hmm.
costume. It's literally what it's literally the same costume as it's literally
Oppenheimer's.
Oppenheimer, yeah. And it's like a test pilot Air Force like jacket and stuff that
Yeah.
they would wear. But I really love that scene because there is a scene in the movie where Chuck is Chuck and his wife, they're racing on horseback. And in the beginning of the movie, it's a true story where they're racing in the desert. That's where they did the test pilot. That's where they were doing the test flights. We're in the Nevada, New Mexico desert.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where they would do all their test flights because there's nobody around and they could do it in secret. And I love the parallels because like Chuck Yeager's wife, Glennis Yeager,
Okay.
that's what they name the X1 in that's what they named
The
his
right stuff.
X1
Oh wow.
is Glamorous Glennis.
Oh.
Glennis. Glennis is, I
Man,
believe, Chuck
you're making me
Yeager's
want to watch
wife's
this
name.
film now.
Dude, but the best part was so they were racing and they were goofing off, but they were racing on horseback and they were coming from it's called Ponchos, and it was a bar that all the test pilots would go to, and they were racing after they had went to go get drinks, and didn't see a branch, and he
Oh
hit
shit.
it and launched him backwards, and he broke 4 ribs
Oh wow.
the night before he was supposed to go do the test flight for the
Ooh.
X1. And Chuck, being the badass that he was,
Yeah.
he's like, I broke ribs. I need to be able to close the hatch on
Yeah.
the X1. So they snapped uh they snapped a broom they cut a broomstick
Uh-huh.
so he could latch it across him and close the hatch for the
Wow.
X1. He didn't let it stop him from from doing the test flight that literally he was the first person to go above, I think it's 800 miles an hour, and break the sound barrier. And he did it with broken ribs. And
Wow.
but I just love, because again, it's New Mexico, right? And that's where they broke the sound barrier. Was, I believe it was over the New Mexico desert that they did that whole test flight. And I just love that parallel too, because it was just I the cinematography was just so beautiful. The sound design was amazing. What did you think of the scene where um excuse me, Oppenheimer's talking to everybody at Los Alamos, and they're all cheering? And isn't that cool? Like
You mean
the
the one
stomping.
after the bomb
Yes, and
is
they're
dropped?
stomping. And
That
remember, they're stomping, and we're like, oh, that's what the stomping was that they keep playing throughout the movie, was from the ending. I was like,
now, okay,
oh,
so this film, I think, has some of the best scenes in like, well, I could say, yeah, it's some of the best scenes I've ever seen in a film where
yep,
like you have the that scene there. Oh my god. When you see, because the one girl, I don't know if you knew this, but there's that one young girl, she might be in her 20s or something, and like you see her like skin peeling off because that's like the nuclear bombing scene. That's Christopher Nolan's daughter.
that's no, I heard that she was in it, but I didn't realize. Oh,
And
he talked about like
yeah,
that. It was like, what was the quote that he said about why he put her in that
well, he
scene?
said like um the biggest fear is, what would happen to your child or such, and that would be my biggest fear. And that is, and he's
I
essentially,
love
as a
that
director, he's putting himself
in the movie.
in the shoes of
Yeah,
Oppenheimer.
yeah. I thought
And
that was
oh,
such a
it's
fascinating scene.
in this, like the sound design, you're talking about the sound design, that part when the when oh my god, when he says something and then you see the people cheering but you don't hear them.
Yep.
And that was the one thing where you're like nervous when the bomb's gonna go off, because every scene like that, and honestly, my favorite scene in this movie is that test of the bomb. That is one of the best sequences I've ever seen, because I did not expect it to be silent. I did not
Yep.
expect
And then
it
the rush of the wind,
in the
like them.
aftershock and all that. Like that blew me away. And I watched that in a regular theater. I can't imagine what that would be like. Now you saw that in 70 millimeter.
It
Did you
was
see it in
so
IMAX?
cool. No, I saw it in 70 millimeter, and
Okay,
it was still fucking
it's
phenomenal.
amazing. But to see that in an IMAX, there's an IMAX 70 millimeter screen that I want to see it at, but like they were all sold out. That would be one of the greatest moments to witness, because you're not only seeing, the real life way that would work, but it's all practical, Tyler. Like that was a miniature. Nolan has talked about how here isn't a single shot in this film that is CGI, which is insane. And the budget on this film
Was a
is like a
hundred
hundred
million.
million dollars.
Yep.
I mean, I can't imagine. This film is making all these movies that came out this past summer look so, embarrassed, because I mean, all that money they put into these films, and you have $100 million budget, and this film's going to be profitable. Like this film is going to make the money back, Oh my god, that these sequences also, because I'm gonna have to go and eat lunch in a couple minutes, but the Emily Blunt sequence at the end of the movie where she delivers that monologue trying to defend her husband.
Oh yeah, and
Oh,
just like how razor sharp she was, like she
yes.
was so cunning and so like on top of her shit. It was so cool to watch that where she's like, "Oh, like you didn't let me finish." Like like she was ready to like she was like a lioness. Like
Yeah.
she was like like she
Defending
was
her.
yeah, like defending her honor and defending her husband.
And it didn't feel weak too, because like
No,
you could say
she
like,
could
oh
just
well, it's a woman defending her husband, but it's so much more than that
yep,
because it's also in a way a woman defending herself
yep,
because they're telling her, oh, you used to be a communist and
yeah.
all that,
Oh,
and
she's like,
it's
no, 18, 16, no, 18 years. And I've never done this. And yeah,
uh
like Oppie has sent money to help Spanish refugees. Like
I've also
she was
noticed
the perfect witness.
I've also
Perfect
noticed
witness.
people talk about the fact that Christopher Nolan cares so much about this story that he doesn't try and focus on these actors. So that one scene when you see near the beginning when Oppenheimer's being interviewed and Emily Blunt's in the background, Emily Blunt's A-list talents, everybody loves her, but a lesser director would be more inclined to just focus a close up on her and the fact that
Uh,
Nolan.
I don't. I think I would think the way that it the way for me, I think it was. I don't. I think it would be out of. It would be like a wide shot. She
Uh-huh.
wouldn't have been because what they did is they did a rack focus on Killian's
Yeah.
character. I do love that they didn't put them both in it. She was
Yeah,
kind of like the silent
because
person in the
no, but it's like
background.
they're shooting it kind of like a documentary
Yes.
because
Yep.
they're making it where these aren't actors, these are the characters themselves. And the
These are the
fact that,
people themselves.
yeah,
Yep.
you have the audacity of these these well, at least Christopher Nolan to do this, it's really a bold move because I
Yep.
mean Robert Downey Jr. is someone they give a role to, but you're never really like, oh, they're just keeping the focus on Robert Downey. Like these, it feels so real and lived in. Kenneth Branagh has like, a very short role in it. It is funny because I was rewatching Dunkirk the other night, and in that scene with Kenneth Branagh and Oppenheimer's teacher, his teacher's played by James Darcy, who was in Dunkirk with Kenneth Branagh. They're the two like commanders talking to each other, and they
Oh.
share another scene together in this one. It was so good. I I haven't. I don't think he's in it, but I was sad I didn't see or hear Michael Caine in this one
I
because
don't think he
he's been in
is.
every Nolan film since Batman Begins. Even in Dunkirk, he's on like the
The radio.
communications
The
radio
radio.
with Tom Hardy. So, and I think it's because he maybe semi-retired. Like he's still, I think, taking roles, but I think he may have taken a break after Tenet. So that might be why. And it also led me to this suspicion in Tenet. There's that strange moment. Like I thought it was strange how they focus it when the protagonist John David Washington says to him, "Goodbye, Sir Michael," and I felt like that was a slight nod to the fact that maybe we wouldn't see Michael Caine in another Nolan film again, let alone maybe another film again. But oh man, it was so good. But Tyler, I have to go and eat lunch now. So,
Okay.
oh man, we could talk about this more.
We'll have to do another one soon. We'll have
I
to do
might want
another
to do
one
one, but
soon.
be good is if because I'm gonna see it again, and I definitely want to get the full experience watching it from beginning to end. So maybe we can discuss it again. Though I will say, I I am dying to read American Prometheus, the book that this is based off of.
Oh, I wanna the last thing that I want to talk about just real quick is
Yeah.
the end where Killian is like talking to to Einstein, and he's like, "Remember, I showed you the calculations about if we
Yeah.
did the test that there would be that nuclear reaction that would destroy the world." And Einstein's like, "Yeah, I remember that vividly." And he's like, "I really think that we did that." Like he makes that.
In like a figurative sense.
No,
Yeah.
but he's like, "We destroyed." I think we really did just destroy the world
Yeah.
with that. And just the close up, like it zooms in on him, and it's just that ending, like it just sums up the dread that op because and it was also really funny and interesting. Like RDJ Strauss was like, he thought in that moment that they were talking about him. Remember, like
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
thought,
Yeah.
and he's like, no, he was not important at all. It was about that whole, you know, like Strauss tried to insert him into everything, that he was such an important person, and that Killian's character, like Oppenheimer, was so obsessed with destroying him,
Yeah.
when that was not the
Oh,
case.
and the final shot of the movie with the Earth essentially being destroyed by just nuclear warfare, that just sends chills down your spine,
Yep, dude,
because
so
you
good.
know, like, this is a possibility
Yep,
because of J. Robert Oppenheimer, like because of what he did.
I become death, the destroyer of worlds, dude.
Oh,
Like,
it's so good, Tyler. I can't believe, like, can you believe how lucky and fortunate we are right now that Barbie and Oppenheimer, two great films, have been released, and like they both. But I mean, Oppenheimer is a film. Like, this film is for sure going to be a front runner at the
yeah,
Academy
it
Awards.
needs. I think Killian deserves to win the Oscar for Best Actor.
Mm-hmm.
I think this film is gonna do bonkers, Kyle. I think this
Oh,
film is gonna do bonkers.
it's gonna become a huge discussion point, and acting wise, I think
Yep,
Killian and Robert Downey will get nominations. Maybe we could see one for Emily Blunt just for that one scene alone.
yep.
But maybe we could see, um, more of the technical awards and all that. But I cannot wait. Anyway, Tyler, I gotta go. I'll talk to you
Peace.
later.
All
Peace
right, bye,
out.
bro.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. I know some people had jumped on. This was a discussion about Oppenheimer, and um, I'm gonna probably do another one very soon. I know nobody's watching it right now, but if you guys want to watch something after, please do. And yeah, um, I know I'm talking to the cloud right now, but please, if you have a chance, go to the theaters this weekend. It's either Barbie or Oppenheimer. You will enjoy both, and you will be captivated by both, because this is cinema, baby. This is Tyler 2.0 signing off. Have a good day, guys.